Hello and welcome to another edition of It's Just Me, host of our Brent Box. Today I will actually be covering, for the majority of the show, the George Pickens trade. Um, Now, for those of you that may not know, for whatever reason, wide receiver George Pickens, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys. The trade entails the Pittsburgh Steelers actually receiving a 2026 third round pick and then a 2027 fifth round pick. So my apologies for the inaccurate information on the short earlier. The Cowboys receive a 2027 sixth round pick along with George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Uh, this particular trade is very conflicting for me personally. On the business side, I suppose that it is understandable, given the antics that George Pickens has actually displayed for the last couple of years. And then also, of course, like the last two games were very, very bad for George Pickens. At one point, he had zero receptions, I think, for the Cincinnati game. Um, yeah, that's just inexcusable. I think, on all five or six of his targets, he dropped them. You simply cannot have that as far as like a production standpoint. And you certainly can't have the antics that he has had um, and not be able to produce when it's actually time to, or it's much needed for you to be able to produce. Um, Looking back, that game may have been a victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers had George Pickens hauled in those particular targets. Um, but we'll never know that now. Uh, Something else that we will also may never know is how the receiving duo of George Pickens and also DK Metcalf would have gone. I would have loved to have seen the weapons of past destruction. Shout outs to Chris Carter and the Locked On crew for that particular nickname for George Pickens and also DK Metcalf's possible duo. Now it's probably just going to be just destruction now. I don't think that signing Robert Woods is going to appease a very gaping hole for the second receiver. Neither would Calvin Austin, and less likely for Roman Wilson, who was a third round pick the previous year. I, yeah, it's kind of like a right back where we started type situation. Actually, it's a worse than where we started situation because of the QB issue. It's a whole nother subject entirely. At this particular point, I do not think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are setting themselves up for success, at least offensively. This may have to be a year like maybe 2018 and 2019, where the defense pretty much has to carry the team, and hopefully the offense scores enough points to edge a win, especially with tough opponents. Um, and just because things actually look bleak, and this may be what I would label crash out season, 2025, 2026, um, does not necessarily mean that the Pittsburgh Steelers intend to tank. What that could mean, though, is the end of Mike Tomlin's tenure. I have been an avid supporter of Coach Tomlin ever since he was actually hired here at the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. He has survived many things. He has survived the Killer B era, where we had multiple personalities that would, at some points in time, cause multiple issues in the locker room, sometimes all at once. Got to think about it. We've had a Le'Veon Bell that In some instances, could just not stay out of trouble. We've had a situation with Martavius Bryant not being able to stop smoking weed, quite frankly. And then we have the ever present or legendarily passive aggressive Ben Roethlisberger. And then on top of that, oh yeah, there was a guy with a certain jersey number 84 who calls himself AB that wreaked all kinds of havoc, um, not only in the locker room, but also in the city of Pittsburgh. Um, I will let people research what I mean by that. Um, if we were able to actually handle those situations, I think that we probably would have been able to handle both George Pickens and DK Metcalf. I really, I was really hopeful about the possibilities of them being a great pass receiving duo and how that would have tremendously helped our offense. I yeah, from a personal standpoint and a fan standpoint, I am somewhat devastated. Not somewhat. I am devastated. Um, we don't even have the situation with the quarterback resolved. Yes, we'll probably more than likely start the season off with Mason Rudolph. For those that really believe that Aaron Rodgers may come and sign to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm just going to be honest with you. If he were going to do that, he would have done that by now. He would have been out there, much like he mysteriously did or conveniently did with DK Metcalf, throwing around the ball and things of that nature. Um, he would have gotten started on work regardless of what his personal life may have been. I'm not dehumanizing Aaron Rodgers, but what I will say is that even at a regular job, if you're having to take a leave of absence, they're going to want to know when you're coming back. The fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is not actually setting a hard deadline with this man kind of further lets me know how desperate we are at this point in time to try to have quality play at the QB position. Um, and then with Rodgers knowing this, because he has a very high level of intelligence. Let's not let's not mistake that. He has a very high level of intelligence, but he is also he is also full of shit. Okay, um, it's not exactly my favorite person in the world. And to be quite honest with you, even with Ben being very passive aggressive and casually throwing people under the bus when things didn't turn out right, I would rather deal with that BS than deal with someone who um, systematically just destroys teams. People seem to forget late in his tenure at Green Bay, um, things weren't going so well there either, and they actually felt that they had to draft Jordan Love just in case Rodgers was not going to willingly play for the Green Bay Packers. And then, of course, once that actually happened, Rodgers, to his credit, stated that he would probably be a bit more helpful than Brett Favre was to him when he was drafted. Which, I mean, I don't know whether or not that's true or false. The men in the locker room know that, and the men in the coaching classrooms know that. But I just don't see a I don't see a positive scenario with him actually being here. And um, I would much rather try and pick up the pieces or pick up the or you know try to make sure that the locker room is not in shambles after this man leaves. And to be quite honest with you, seeing what he actually did with the New York Jets, it's very discouraging. Um, and especially now that we're down to one primary receiver. I don't trust that situation anyway. So I would rather deal with Mason Rudolph and have my locker room together than take a chance or a big swing on somebody that, yes, has Hall of Fame credentials, but is also a humongous headache. Um, and once again, and I cannot reemphasize this enough, if we are to sign Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin may not survive that particular season. Um, yes, he may survive the actual season, and then when it comes to a close, they may part ways with him. But yeah, the chances of being able to survive a season that is going to wind up being an implosion and then ultimately a failure. I just don't think that Coach Tomlin would be able to survive something like that. Um, it may also be true that if we do not have a quarterback and play is actually bad, especially on the offensive end, and then we wind up having a losing season, um, Coach Tomlin's tenure may be over. Although I do think that it would be unfair for just Coach Tomlin to leave, I would, I would definitely want Omar to be responsible on some front because he is responsible or for getting players in here to try to help the team win. I don't think that he would probably be going anywhere because of the positive moves that he has actually made. I think that us Steeler fans are actually spoiled as a whole and pretty much feel like the expectations are Super Bowl and anything short of that is a failure, regardless of how the actual roster looks. Um, yeah, I just don't see it. Um, I honestly believe that if the running game actually works out, that would probably help save the season. Um, we do have Pratt Firemuth as a receiving option. If we are able to utilize Darnell Washington properly, that's another receiving threat as well. But it is no substitute by any means for a solid receiver at the other end on the so basically on the Z side or flanker as a receiver. And a Z is basically, or Z or a flanker, they're both the same thing, is a wide receiver that usually lines up where the tight end is lined up, and he's a little bit off of the line of scrimmage. Um, yeah, without a strong number two, I'm not sure how this is actually going to go offensively. We already are down a quarterback, and then you mean to tell me that we're going to take away a significant receiving threat? I don't know. I don't know. And again, I do understand it from a business standpoint. I also understand it from a cultural standpoint as well. Um, Coach Tomlin has done a terrific job at keeping a lid on things, especially with Antonio Brown. Um, until his tenure actually came to an end. But yeah, I just do not see it. But hopefully I am wrong, and I will probably be happy to report that we are winning a significant amount of games, and that uh, if we shock the world and win a wild card game, that's an impressive season to me. Yeah. So I will go ahead and get this wrapped up. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of It's Just Me, hosted by Brent Fox. And I will see you guys next week.